There are many different ways you can lead. Most leadership styles fall into one or two categories: transactional leadership versus transformational leadership. A transactional leader is someone who exchanges rewards and privileges for doing good work. When you do a good job, you get something in return. A transformational leader aims to encourage, inspire, and motivate others to become the best person they can possibly become by defining and modeling certain values. Let's dive deeper into both leadership styles, starting with transformational leadership and a word from former Alabama coach Nick Saban.
I think you have a greater chance to lose your team when you're transactional as a leader, which is the way I was until 1998. In other words, everything was about winning or losing. And when we won, I patted people on the back. But when we didn't win, I was probably too harsh, didn't use it as a teaching moment. And negative experiences without teaching kills morale. In 1998, we were going to play Ohio State. They were number one in the country. We were 4-5 at Michigan State. They were getting ready to fire me at Michigan State. And I don't think we can win the game. So I said, what's my approach going to be? So I had to change into being a transformational leader. You know, somebody who was somebody that players could emulate, you know, cared about the players for their benefit, not my benefit. You know, had a vision for what we would accomplish and how we were going to do it, and had value-based principles that were going to help them be successful in life. And play one play at a time. Everything's about process. Nothing's about outcomes. And we became a different kind of team. We actually won that game. It turned around. And, you know, my coaching career actually changed 360 during that time as well. I didn't have a great record before that game. Had a much better record after that game.
You think?
Everything's transactional in college football right now.
Correct.
People get in the portal. Why do they get in the portal? They want more playing time or they want more money. And so those things are both transactional. But transformational means you have passion and there's something that you want to accomplish and you want to do, and you're trying to create value for your future. So you're not worried about the immediate self-gratification you're going to get from those things. So what is your passion when things don't go well and the team goes bad? That's what I think is happening some in college football. Everything's based on transaction, not transformation.
Now let's dive deeper into transactional leadership by listening to a message from What Drives Winning co-founder Brett Ledbetter.
And if you think about these two concepts, just a show of hands in here, how many of you heard transactional versus transformation coaching? Here's what's interesting about this. I think there's a difference between transactional and manipulating with materialism. The best coaches I'm around are actually very transactional, but they define it differently. They look at it as adding value to someone's livelihood. The interesting thing about the transformational experience is you actually don't get to decide whether or not it's a transformative experience. Who does? They do. And one thing to guarantee it's not is that you don't do what you say you are going to do. So you have to uphold your part of the transaction to give it a shot to be transformative. How do you do that? We ask athletes this question. Here are the top 10 answers that they give when we ask what's important to you about life in general. And if we take the top 5 of what they say and we stack that against society's scorecard, how do you think about that? That's what we asked them. Most common answer? Not a lot in common. Which shows that if you appeal to the values, that you can give a chance for a transformative experience. But the higher they go, everyone around them gets drunk on the left side of this card.
Brett was then asked to dive deeper into how to add value as a transactional leader.
My question really goes back to the transactional versus transformational type of leadership. And I think I would love to be transformational with every engagement I have with my staff, with my students, with families. But kind of like you said, it's not one of those things that I get to decide. And so as I think about that and reflect on that some, I was wondering, how do the greats go about having those transformational interactions with the people that they lead?
Can we agree that if you want to be abnormal, then you can't be normal?
Right. I can agree with that.
So if we can start there, what I'm going to give you is an abnormal thought.
Okay.
The greatest I've been around don't care about legacy. Like they're just interested in doing the best they can and elevating the people around them. They don't need the status. They don't need any of that stuff. So for me, the best I've been around don't even think about being a transformational coach. In fact, the people that say I want to be a transformational coach, from a recruiting perspective, I'm just talking college, you can eviscerate those people because they're on moral high ground. And when you're on moral high ground, it makes you a weak competitor because you're not respecting the opponent to the level you need to if you're going to perform at the highest level.
My question to sort of follow up that is, what are things that coaches can do to add value? The way you define transactional is so powerful. How can you add value besides just looking at it from a dollars perspective to someone's livelihood?
You can add value to their dreams. So the first thing I would say is like, what are you trying to accomplish? What's your vision for yourself? And start to get them to work through what they're trying to strive for. And once you have clear understanding, then you can walk them back and say, all right, what do you need to do? What do you need to say yes to? What do you need to say no to right now to help that come true? And how can I partner with you? What I've learned, again, is like, if you want to be transformational, that is all about you. If you want to be a partner in their dreams, that's all about them. And when you partner with them, they feel that energy. And then the transformation is a byproduct of your relationship.
So you just heard from two very successful leaders about the benefits of both being a transformational leader and a transactional leader. My question is what if we were able to do both? What if we were able to be a transformational leader who utilizes transactions to grow and maximize the experiences of the people we lead? We could do this by getting to know what they value, their hopes and their dreams, and then show them how to make it happen by growing and developing them, providing real-time feedback, and holding them accountable. Here's one more message from Nick Saban on how we can do that.
There's only really one way you can do it, and that's develop relationships with these people. You got to develop relationships. How much time do you spend developing relationships with your players? You know, if there's one thing different about our team this year, is I don't think our coaches spent enough time developing relationships with the people on the team. It's the biggest difference in our team. And you know what? I stand up in front of our team just like I'm standing up in front of you now, and I give some great talks and speeches and all that stuff to motivate people, try to motivate them. But, you know, they find out at all these, you know, big religious things that they used to have, you know, where they had, you know, all these great big revival meetings and all that kind of stuff, and they thought that's why people joined up. You know what they're finding out now? That doesn't do any good at all. You know why people join up? Individual meetings. They meet individually with somebody, it impacts them, and they join the church. So what's that tell me? It tells me we ought to be doing the same thing. I'm going to talk to a group of guys. They may or may not listen. I may make all the right points. But if you make it about them and you sit down and have a relationship with them, they're going to respond to you. Because these players don't do what you tell them just because you tell them to do it. They don't do that anymore. I would do that when I played. They don't do that anymore. You got to have a relationship with them. They got to trust you. They got to respect you. And you got to build that. Can't just say, this is what you're supposed to do.